I'd like to reiterate something about the process that we are following. The descending method coming from God Himself through the unbroken chain of spiritual master or saintly person who are representative of the Supreme Person, the ambassador of God, who represents God's compassion, who are teacher by example, because through association with them, we can experience God's love and affection that we are always longing for. We are looking for a friend. And here, I'll describe to you what is a friend. Because all of us in this material world, we're looking for someone to be with eternally, to be with a friend. But our idea of friendship or a friend is so obscured and limited because of our experience in this world. And what are those experiences? Friendship that is not transcendental. Friendship that is not pure. The spirit soul, all of us, by nature, in quality, we are all pure. But because of contact with material nature, activities we do based upon material consideration, taking shelter or following the three modes of material nature based upon our will, what happens is we don't know anymore what is friendship. Because we have become so self-centered and selfish. It's all about us. So when we speak of friendship, it's what we can get. And there is always this doubt in our heart. We don't have really a real foundation that we can be experiencing this friendship. And when we speak of love for God, or knowing God, or serving God, or pure devotional service, we're talking about the friendship of the Supreme Person. It's about love, it's about care. It's about caring that is unconditional. So here, the Supreme Person, I'll narrate here the narrative from our instructing spiritual master, His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, who narrates to us Lord Krishna's statement, which means not different from him, because the Supreme Person is all attractive and it's inseparable. And one of his attractiveness is his love and his friendship. The question now is, why can't we see it? Why can't we have that meditation and embrace him as a friend? Why? This we will discuss. What separates us from that eternal world of friendship? Mainly because of our upbringing or our exposure in this material world, this material disease of false bodily identification and the false ego, which is not real. We have identified ourselves with a false ego in Paul's lordship, trying to be the supreme dominator, the self-sufficient person, trying to control, and trying to play surrogate God. So that's what we experience in this world. That's why we are always protective. We don't give our life or make friends with anybody. That's why when I was a kid, we were taught in school, don't receive anything from strangers. Don't take anything from strangers. Somebody gives you a child, somebody gives him candies. Someone who have heard from someone who cares, who wants to protect him, the mother or the teacher tells him, don't take anything from strangers. Don't receive anything from strangers. Meaning, you don't make friendship with someone who's giving you something you don't even know. A stranger. Yeah? Because of what we experience and what we see in the news and what we see in ourselves and the environment and the result of having someone or accepting someone as your friend who is a stranger who you don't know his character or you don't know who he is really. Is he really a friend? Or is a person who will put me in predicament, who will put me in danger? In Bhagavad Gita, as it is, opulence of the absolute truth. The opulence that we will discuss here is not about the wealth, the power, the unlimited power of God, the unlimited wealth, His control, the source of matter and life. It's not about that. We will discuss here the opulence of Krishna's unconditional love for us, our eternal friend who has unconditional love for us. As a beginner, when we are searching for answers to our questions, like those who approach God in different outlook, the one who is very poor, the one who is very distressed. When you say distress, really full of problems and anxiety. You know, the one who is very poor, he wants something. That's why they see God as the source of everything, and they go to the place of worship and ask God for, for bread, for economic development. And the other is curious. And the other one is intelligent. For so long a time, we have become fruitive workers. You know what's fruitive worker? You do something, you want to get the fruits. And when we are not really in this transcendental world of pure devotional service, we bring that misconception and that contamination that we are thinking, I'm chanting, I am a devotee. But actually, we are fruitive workers. And we bring that formula and that contamination that has been a consciousness when we come in contact with the science of Bhakti Yoga, or how to establish our eternal, transcendental relationship with God. We want to be pure because we have experienced that sinful activities, contamination in this world have put us in a precarious and dangerous situation. It's all about us. Because we don't know the science of love. We are not appreciating God's love and unconditional care for us. And it can only be understood from someone who is a teacher by example, who loves a supreme person. And here, I'll read to you Krishna's heart, Krishna's personality, how he is our eternal friend. The Supreme Lord said, "My dear friend, mighty arm Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which I shall impart to you for your benefit, and will give you great joy." So Krishna is talking to Arjuna. He's telling Arjuna, "My dear friend, mighty arm Arjuna, listen again to my supreme word, which shall I impart to you for your benefit, and which will give you great joy." This is about Krishna's friendship and about Krishna's love, which should be understood from someone who is a maidservant of Radha and Krishna, a resident of the spiritual world of Vrindavan, an associate of the Supreme Person. Neither the host of demigods nor the great sages know my origin, for in every respect I am the source of the demigods and the sages. He who knows me as unborn, as beginningless, as the Supreme Lord of all the worlds, he undeluded among men is freed from all sins. That's why when we come in contact with our spiritual master, our initiating spiritual master, and our instructing spiritual master, they teach us the science, how we can be in harmony with the will of God. When we are able to understand how we have been for so long not in harmony with the transcendental world of friendship and love for the Supreme Person, and we are not experiencing that, and when we become aware, we come in contact with someone who has this unconditional love, our Gurudev, the confidential loving servant of God, then we can see how we have been moving in the wrong direction that has caused us to be separated from that loving relationship. We hear always someone who is so much engrossed under the influence of the mind, which is based upon the power of lust, greed, and anger. One is very greedy, and it's situated in the mind, that lust, because now the reason with his body is because of the mind, and the mind's form, the subtle form, the desire, that's why we have this material body. So we're searching for happiness through the body, which is very limited and a different energy from us. That's why we're not in harmony with God's affection and God's will. I usually hear, don't sell your soul to the devil. And although you're the spirit soul, when you speak about the soul, your life, your happiness, because of greed, because of lust, you lose your intelligence. Because you don't know where to find real happiness. You're thinking you're being forced by lust, and you think that, yes, if I follow, which is actually, it's not if I follow. We are driven by force, by lust. Then when we are under this influence of lust, driven by lust, we're able to sacrifice, deny, stay away from someone that is really loving us. Because we will be driven by lust, motivated by greed and anger, and we have no intelligence anymore. That's why the spiritual master teaches us the science wherein he gives us a process that will purify our heart, that will connect us with this love. It's a different science. In the story of Haridas Thakur, during Lord Chaitanya's appearance 5,000 years ago, when the demons, so-called pseudo-spiritualists, so-called spiritualists, who are in the position of authorities, who runs the temple, who runs the organization, they begin to see Haridas Thakur's fame and a threat to their so-called dominion. Because they have this fear in their heart. When they see Haridas Thakur, they see what they're lacking. They envy him because they're envious of God. So they want to put him down. They want to destroy his reputation, his trustworthiness to the people. So people will not follow him. But because they're not understanding what everybody is longing for, the eternal joy of doing the will of God, and Haridas Thakur is someone called Namacharya, the spiritual master of the holy names, the perfect person who is a pure loving servant of the Supreme Person in complete transcendental meditation in harmony with doing the will of the Supreme Person. 100%. So they sent someone who is under the influence of the three modes of material nature, under the influence of lust. Physically, she has a very beautiful body, a prostitute. It's described her Maya personified, so attractive. She's a head turner, that when anybody who sees her, male or female, in the body of female and male, they turn their head, she's beautiful, she's lovely. So they sent that person to entice Haridas Thakur, to engage in sinful activities. Because they're thinking, if Haridas Thakur agrees to engage in contact with this prostitute, because they're not seeing the purity of Haridas Thakur as a pure loving servant of God, they're thinking that this influence of lust, this beautiful prostitute having this beautiful body, will be able to obscure the glories of Haridas Thakur. But he is in a different world, a transcendental world that is not touched by matter, because his meditation is in harmony with the transcendental will of God, his eternal friend, Lord Krsna. So, no matter what they do, they cannot obscure or cover or negate the glories of Haridas Thakur. Just like you cannot take heat away from fire. You cannot take wetness from water. He is in his transcendental, not touched by matter. That when the prostitute came, what happened? Because of his influence, of his affection for the Supreme Person, unconditional love for the Supreme Person, and now manifested to all of us, that when this prostitute who came to bring him down, influenced by the demons who are supposedly the religious leader of the organization, who were appointed hereditary gurus. What is their medium for purification? To get followers. It's about their obnoxious, bizarre, horrible consciousness based upon lust and anger. And not only that, they want to put Haridas Thakur in a situation, in this predicament, so they'll arrest him and show to the people. They're putting fear in people's heart. But here, Lord Krsna is telling us, what is a friend? A friend is someone who loves us unconditionally, who will always be with us, whom we can lean, whom we can take shelter, who loves us. And the process we follow in the science of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of Parampara or the spiritual master or the saintly person is completely different from the process that all these people who are trying to put, to put security or purity, to protect what is transcendental with this material formula, is not the process. The process is the supreme purifier, Krsna, the holy names. That's why when the lady who is in this situation, who came in contact with Haridas Thakur, she was able to come in contact with the supreme purifier, the eternal friend, the spiritual master, represented by Haridas Thakur, who is inseparable from God, the supreme purifier. So what did she experience? She experienced the sinful activities she's doing. That we should understand clearly what separates us from this world of pure devotional service. And what did she do after coming in contact with Haridas Thakur and experience the purifying effect of the holy names and the influence of
God's mercy upon her, God's blessing upon her, she felt she's sinful. She felt in her heart, as a child of God, someone who's caring, who's loving him, who's loving her. And she fell down flat and asked forgiveness. So when we understand our true transcendental nature and what separated us, we can see how we have discarded, we have neglected our friend who loves us eternally, who is the person who we be loving because he cares for us. And in this case, Haridas Thakur's influence upon that lady purified her from her sinful outlook. It touched her heart. It gives her connection with what she's longing for, the shelter of love, the shelter of friendship, but not based upon what the demons or those so-called religious leaders who are in the position of authority running the organization. That is not the process that Haridas Thakur was able to influence her. No. She is under the force that is greater than her. Material nature, the three modes, lust, the mode of passion. And in her activities, the consciousness she's now in, a certain activity leads to a certain consciousness. Definitely, her profession as a prostitute is to entice others and use her body as a commodity for living and influence those who are servant of their senses, who are looking for happiness through the senses, and she's there to address that problem. That's her job. That's her work. But the process we are following is not that. Haridas Thakur, when she bowed down, said, my dear Haridas Thakur, I ask forgiveness from you. I came here to bring you down. And I feel in my heart that it's a greatest sin. It is a greatest offense upon you. And she asked for forgiveness. So look at us. In false ego, we think, I own. I'm the master. Me, my extended false ego. Junior, my daughter, my family, I own. But when we come to this understanding of a certain degree of realization and purity, in actuality, not just theoretically, reading books about love for God, about the science of love for God. It's not like that. It's not a theory that you read. It is an experience that when we come in contact with the Supreme Purifier, that will purify our heart, that will give us connection with the will of God, just like Haridas Thakur, who chanted the process that is given to us by Scripture, by the saintly person, the Hare Nama, the holy names, purified her heart. She begins to see, what am I doing? The person who cares and loves me, I committed a grievous offense. And she bowed down and asked forgiveness. And Haridas Thakur said, I know you're coming. I stayed because I know you're coming to save you. Save you from what? From the wrath of the demons, who, when she was not able to do their bidding, she's afraid that they're gonna hurt her and she'll die and they'll put her in misery. So the process is different that we are following, because you cannot threaten a person who is in harmony with the will of his eternal loving friend, the Supreme Person. Haridas Thakur is not threatened. He's with someone, a beautiful lady, asking, begging, I want to enjoy with you. I want to have contact with you. But because Haridas Thakur is in a different world, a world not touched by these three modes of material nature, has no material consideration. He sees the person, the spirit soul, who is now covered by the influence of those demoniac people who pose as representative of God, and the process for purification, it's an obscurement of the truth. They want Haridas Thakur to stop chanting. And they have this bizarre, seemingly insidious plan, which when I say insidious, it seems harmless, amiable, but actually it's very dangerous, because there is malice there. There is a bizarre intent of a criminal act to put Haridas Thakur in an awkward situation, awkward position. So my point is this: we're being brought up in a Christian country, and during that time, we can look through history. It's all about asking God for protection. Asking God for protection. Because the environment during the time of Jesus, they're in a situation where they're enslaved. And those righteous kings are always fighting against those who want to enslave them and want them to be following their bidding, which is not in harmony with pleasing God. And the only way they see God is someone who will protect them, who is powerful, who can trample the demons like cockroaches or ants and step on them. So they pray to God, relate to God like that. And those so-called leaders who appoint themselves as the representative of God put fear in their heart that if you don't follow this, you'll be in damnation. It's not about love and care. It's about, if you do this, God will give you a certain, amelioration, like porpoise, You just follow the rules, you get something. But if you're not, you're going to be put in jail. So, we should see how to be in harmony, to help others, how they can be in harmony with God's love, with God's friendship. Not this materialistic concept of trying to put people in the box. You know this, here in this world, in the world of economy, we have been, like all the institution here, schools, they teach you economics, So when we speak of stock and exchange, someone who's very rich with so much money, and these individuals are doing business in a country as great as America, they put regulation. to this tax exchange because it's trading, you know. What happened is that for me, as an individual, I put my money in this bank. And then my business goes sour. The stocks begins to fluctuate, you know, from $100, now I'm losing. I'm going bankrupt, you know. And I talk to the manager and I ask them, tell them, you know what? I will sell my stock at certain amount. Nobody knows about that, you know. Nobody knows about that. Because it's a rule, it's a crime to do and reveal this insider knowledge about what they're taking care of. Because they are shepherding or taking care of that stocks. But someone there who knows, oh, they're going to sell the stocks. And he goes to someone because this another company will do bidding to buy these stocks at $100, and he tells this guy who is in the arbitrage, you know, in stocks exchange, you know, a realtor tells somebody who runs the stocks and exchange of selling and buying, hey, this company will sell, and this company will bid this amount, and they're losing. Buy that stocks, and then sell it at a higher price. You buy it at the stocks that they will sell it, and then those who are bidding who are seeing it, will buy on a higher price than you earn. So if you sell that stocks worth 5 million, you know, you have 5 million shares, and you're gonna sell that for $1,000 per share, and you just bought it for $200, and it's illegal. You know, it's illegal. That's why they have to sign contract. That if you are in this arbitrage, no insider trading. Because insider trading will destroy the economy. There's this pre-playing field, but there's nobody should take advantage to manipulate the stocks, or else it will be chaos. The trust will not be there. People will not buy stocks. They may be thinking, if I buy this amount, $100 per share, I buy 1 million share, tomorrow it's only 1 cent, you know, per stock, then I lose. So there are laws or encumbrances that they have to sign, that if they do that, the IRS, the FBI, the government will run after them and put them in jail. So that's how they run the stocks and exchange business. Selling goods, buying goods. So if we put this system and apply this in the organization to run the programs, the question is, what are you hiding? Because the science is based upon a different path. It's transcendental to this mundane world. Just like this so-called religious leader, these demons who try to enter the world of Haridas Thakur. But they cannot enter that world, because that world is the word of life. And what is the word of life? It's about friendship. It's about surrender. It's about the joy of experiencing, giving my life to someone who loves me eternally, Lord Krsna. So now we have this understanding from our spiritual master of someone who is opulent. And what is that opulent? It's not about the power. It's not about owning anything. It's about a relationship that is eternal, that we are always longing for, even at the end of this body, while even in this body. So instead of those people who came in contact with the science, instead of trying to put, something, a formula to control the people who may go wayward, everybody in this world That's why this world is a place for those individuals, in a truest sense, who are thieves, who steals from God, who are hard-hearted, who is separated from this transcendental world. And you try to, what? Control them by signing contract that if I do this, I'll go to jail? How can you do that? The process is you yourself should follow the purificatory process and become like Haridas Thakur. Follow our spiritual master, who is a teacher by example, through association with him, through contact with him, through hearing from the spiritual master, the instructing spiritual master, none different from God. It has given us clarity of who we are. It has given us clarity whom to take shelter. Yes, because when we come in contact with the representative of God, he teaches us about our eternality. A transcendental person, you. So you cannot be threatened by death. What will you be threatened when you are having someone you love, You don't sell your soul to the devil. You're willing to make a stand. To die. Not die actually. Meaning to renege or leave everything just to embrace, to be with that person who loves him unconditionally. But the science cannot be taught by someone who is so much engrossed and contaminated by the false ego. So it's a different world. And this world of transcendence was experienced by the prostitute. She came there to bring Haridas Thakur down. But because Haridas Thakur is the personification of God's love and compassion, he sees her as a child of God. He embraced her, not through his body. He embraced her with his affection and love by giving her love, God's love, because he represents God's love. And through his association, he's like the fire, that when metal comes in contact, it becomes fire. Haridas Thakur is like, a touchstone, that when metal comes, it's like a touchstone. When metal comes in contact with the touchstone, it turns into gold. He has this power and ability of God's power to purify because of his love for this person. And Krishna's love for him is a relationship. That is what spiritual life is all about. It is a relationship that is transcendental, not this organization. It is about the lotus feet of our spiritual master based upon his teaching that is transcendental about our relationship with God and entering that world by God himself coming to us and embracing us. That is the science we should be teaching. We should live that world of friendship. And that is attainable. Is God attainable? Yes. By the process of God's love for us, the holy names. A meditation that will purify us, just like when the prostitute came in contact with Haridas Thakur. She's able to see that for all her life, she'd been very miserable, full of fear, and under the hands of the demons who tramples her rights, who dominates her because she's under the influence that she cannot control. Lust, anger, and greed. She sold, because of her exposure to this material world, this cliche, she sold her life to the devil. But now, she says, wow, I've been ungrateful. I am not amiable. I have discarded. I am an unfaithful friend. But because Krishna loves me, God loves me, He loves me eternally, and That is my natural position and function. And what separated me is my selfishness. And she feels in her heart, she's sinful. She bowed down. We must come to that point. But we cannot come to that point if we cannot see our true transcendental nature and what we have been doing in this world for so long that has separated us. How we discarded, how we threw away, how we turn our face, not only turn our face from God. Then we feel, I have a friend who's with me, who has unconditional love for me. And Lord Krsna tells us this. This is what we should be focusing. This is what we should be focusing. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are surrendered to me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. So why will someone who supposedly following the path of parampara, which is based upon the purity of our true transcendental nature and our true transcendental position and function, be worried about something that will, destroy their so-called, authority and position. Just like Haridas Thakur. When they saw Haridas Thakur chanting, spiritual life, love for God, is based upon purity, transparency. So definitely someone who's making progress in spiritual life, in his relationship with God, will be a state of consciousness, of humility, like that lady who sees herself as someone who's a servant, who sold the most precious, her love, to the devil. And now she sees how she is so sinful. How she's so ungrateful. And she's now thankful for the compassion and care that she experienced through association with Haridas Thakur. So when we come in contact with our spiritual master, with the representative of God, and gives us the process of this simple process, the Harinama, that will protect us. And those people, instead of trying to control and put people in the box, how the organization can run, it's like, can you cover the sun? Can the clouds cover the sun? No. So the devotee, because they're not experiencing this understanding and relationship, they try to figure out in their mind and to put this transcendental relationship in a box. Not understanding that someone who makes progress in this transcendental world is not threatened. She makes a stand. What did the prostitute did? What did she do? Wrong. What did she do after realizing? She left that world. She followed the instruction of Haridas Thakur. She cut her hair. She chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and completely took shelter of Krsna through the guidance of Haridas Thakur. So we should not take guidance from these people who puts us in this box, but rather we should tell them directly, why don't you become a real devotee and live the transcendental world and not be worried about the ghosts that you have speculated, have hypothetically, the fear in your hearts. The only reason you're fearing, because you're trying to portray or tell something you don't even know. You have not achieved. Look at the lady who achieved shelter, who is embraced by this love, a relationship. She took shelter. That's her life. So that is what we are following here. We only follow someone, the bona fide spiritual master, to guide us. That you can take shelter and embrace Krishna, and you will be protected. And here, Krishna tells us, to those who are constantly devoted to me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. That should be our focus. Constantly devoted to the will, to the instruction of our spiritual master. Just like this lady, she took by heart the instruction of Haridas Thakur. So when we speak of God, we're not speaking of someone who will put us in damnation. When we come in contact with this science, it is about understanding how we can be in harmony and understanding what will separate us from that harmony. So that's why it is a must. It's an absolute reality that we should follow someone who's loving God. And when we make progress, those who are lost, we can see when we are in the embrace of the Supreme Person. And what activities does those individuals do? They come together and glorify the Supreme Person, not glorify about His power. Like in Vrindavan, when Lord Krishna came here, nobody there sees Him as God, but rather the most lovable child. My friend, my lover, my master. When we speak of love, it's not about what these people are portraying, there's a case in our situation, there were individuals who came in contact with the spiritual master. But when they saw the spiritual master coming to them, they ran, And the spiritual master is so amazed, how come they're running from me? Actually, it's an insult. You're running away from God. The science is transparent because the love is eternal. He loves us eternally, Krishna. And what separates us? This false ego, this contamination of false ego must be cut to the root when we decide in our life to take shelter, to give, to be in harmony with the will of God, to be the eternal loving servant of God. That we're able to make a stand, that our relationship is not with the organization, simply Krishna, the teachings of our spiritual master. So I'm telling those people who are trying to put people in fear, stop that. But rather, look at yourself. You're so full of fear, and hypothetically, you try to speculate about a ghost you have speculated that puts your mind in fear. The science is completely different from this world of matter and fear. So you should see now and check where you are. And instead of trying to put those who are trying to serve God and be an obscurity, being a block to that friendship, because it's a very offensive and displeasing to God. Why not look at yourself instead looking at others, and trying to give this, regulation and rules, that is connected to this body. Because you are not appreciating to love someone, to care for someone, because you're not able to make a stand Your false ego is so much, you're so covered by the false ego. You cannot make a stand. You're a rich man. So those who are poor, who have nothing, you got nothing except Krishna, you embrace him. You got nothing to lose. But they have something to lose, their lordship. That's a false ego. They cannot see that. They must follow the process. Instead of trying to control people, trying to put them in the box with a system that will obscure their relationship with God, stop it, because you cannot stop what is inseparable from the living entity. Just like this prostitute. For so long, she's in suffering under the control of those individuals whose foundation in life is their false ego. It's about control. It's about cruelty, the brutality of putting people in pain. They love to put people in pain and suffering. And that's what they portray and preach. How can you love someone who you fear? Someone who's gonna hurt you. Will you give your life? That's why we're all defensive. That's why don't accept candies from strangers, Even though they're wearing, holy man's dress. They may be wool in sheep's clothing, Buy what resonates from their mouth. Meaning, what comes out of their mouth. The sound that comes, the action they do. That's why the teacher, the bona fide spiritual master, is someone who is a teacher by example. Who lives the life of loving God eternally, unconditionally, not touched by this world. He may be in this world. That's why the teachings of Jesus, we are not this body. If we are in this body, we're away from the Lord. It's better to be with the Lord than in this body. But in either case, to be in the body or out of the body, wherever we are, we should be in harmony with that love and friendship. So let's continue this in our study program to protect us from false concept and misunderstanding. We must be with the sun, the light. We should not hide under the clouds. Is it clear to everybody? You have any questions? Haribol, namaste.
Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gora Karuna Marupaya, Radha Krishna Prasaya Te. Namo Siddhaswarupananda, Paramahamsa namine, Gora Karuna Marupaya. Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Mayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Mayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Mayanya, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara. Madana, Mohana,
Govinda Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Hare Krishna,
Gopala Govinda Rama,
Hare Krishna,
Madana Mohana,
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Shri Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate